It's very nice to be here. Good to see so many colleagues talking about one of the significant issues of 20th century and 21st century together. Thankful to United Nations Joint Inspection Unit and World Association for Sustainable Development, particularly Professor Alam Ahmad for organizing such an exciting conference. In my talk, I'll be talking about, I'm not going to talk about the concept of PPP. I'll talk a bit about the history of PPP. Why should we talk about the history of PPP? It's important to locate both the ontological and epistemological foundation of the public policy. Most of the time, we forget that there is a world outside Europe. Most of the time, we forget there are people outside European Union. And we need to dismantle this Eurocentric approach to public policy, particularly when we locate the issues within and outside public-private partnerships. So therefore, history is important to put the record straight where we can debate PPP, whether it's an alternative policy approach or it can be implemented or not. So if you locate the history of PPP till today, we see that indigenous communities in Asia, in Africa, in Latin America, they manage community resources. They construct public infrastructure. Indigenous communities continue to do so till today, as we speak. We never consider them as a public policy intervention. These are their way of life. But if you locate history of public-private partnership in Europe, it can be traced back to Roman Empire. The postal networks, highway systems were developed in Roman Empire 2,000 years ago in Europe by following the principles of public-private partnerships. The construction of fortified towns and villages in southwestern region of France during 12th and 13th century was another example in the success story in the history of use of public-private partnerships. The further expansion of public works, concession programs in canal construction, roads, public distribution system, transportation system was developed within the help of public-private partnerships in France during 16th and 17th centuries. During 6th century, the Muslim traders in the Malabar district of Kerala, Kerala is a state in south of India, the Muslim traders in the Malabar district of Kerala in south of India provided resources to the Buddhist missionaries to carry out public works, particularly establishing health centers, educational centers for public good. So the kind of debate we hear for last 2 days, we think that public-private partnership is an alternative which can solve all the issues of sustainability. It is an alternative to the issues of development we face today, not just in Asia, Africa, and Latin America, we face today inside Europe. Majority of people are suffering, and a minority, the people, those who control the resources, the minority of population, maybe 1% of world population control the resources, those who enjoy the privileges of the state and the government. So therefore, it's important to locate the history of public-private partnership, not just within Europe, but outside Europe as well. So this history is completely forgotten. There is a neoliberal assault on history. The teaching of history is something considered to be less profitable in the market of higher education. Therefore, when we listen about public-private partnership as a policy framework, we think that it started during 1980s or during 1990s after the Washington Consensus. So there's a reversal in the trend within public-private partnership. We see as if there is a growth of third-party welfare state under the leadership of business and corporations. I must give a footnote that I'm not opposed to the markets. I'm not opposed to the corporations. But the market that separates consumers from the producers, the market that creates imbalance in the society, the market that dismantles the social solidarity caring and sharing economy, we must oppose that kind of market. We need market that brings people together. We need market that brings producers and consumers together. I don't want, like, if we really give our own examples, I did not know who produced my breakfast. I don't know who produced my T-shirt, my pants and shirts and my mobile phone. What are the wages they get? So we cannot think about sustainability if we don't know who produces what, when, and how. This takes me to the debate during 1917 when Harold J. Lusky published his book called The Grammar of Politics. He raised an important question called who gets what, when, and how. This is where the politics matters in the public policies. And this politics cannot flow from the Europe. It should flow from the bottom up. It should flow from the rural communities, those who live with it and die with it. So therefore, when we talk about public-private partnerships, we should reject the Scottish political economy founded by Adam Smith. The Smithian philosophy of new public management provides both theoretical and conceptual foundation to the public-private partnerships around the world by looking at businesses as agents and state as the principal agent. You know, it takes me to the issue of public-private partnership during colonialism. The British state stood behind East India Company for the colonization of Asia and Africa. So similarly, the French state stood behind French corporations for French colonialism. So therefore, when we talk about public-private partnership, we should remember history, that how state supported private corporations to exploit the rest of the world outside Europe. So therefore, we need to reject the functionalist and essentialist approach towards public-private partnership by looking at history and locate public-private partnership as an alternative which can bring people together by managing resources in a sustainable way for long-term future. We cannot follow the strategic management literature that locates risk, private-public partnership as a risk reduction strategy of investment with long-term returns. We cannot use state as an observer of shock and you socialize the risk, privatize the profit by following the private-public partnership. So what should we do? What kind of direction global public policy should take within the context of the issues of sustainability and public-private partnership? I think we need to reject the idea of privatizing the profit and consolidate in the hands of few and try to exploit the state and resources as much as possible. This is not sustainable. You cannot have an island of pleasure and the world of miseries. So therefore, it is important to locate PPP beyond cost-benefit analysis. We have to locate public-private partnership beyond the ideas, theories, and practices that comes from the Eurocentric ideology. We need to really move away from all these market-based debates. When I say market-based debate, we should not really locate the current market as an alternative. We have to see how market can bring people together. I don't want to give the market spaces to the corporations. Market is a social institution. It's a product of people, it's a product of the society. Therefore, the society should control the market. But unfortunately, all of us, those of us we are talking or those of us who are living in this world, we are being controlled by the market, which is not sustainable. And the public-private partnership that promotes such a model, such an idea, is not sustainable. So therefore, public-private partnership should focus on human development, human welfare, by looking at the idea of socializing profit and privatizing the risk in terms of community risks. Risk can be managed by the communities, and the profit can be owned by the communities. That is the only way we can think about and reflect on public-private partnerships. If the public-private partnerships all about managing and privatizing the profit and socializing the risk, we remain in the same danger as we have seen in the world today. So what should be the role of business and market forces? I think I look at business and market forces as social interactions. I don't look at market as just economic interaction. So we need to bring back the social character of business. We need to bring back the social character of market, by which the producers will know the value of their product and the consumers will know the price of their product. Unfortunately, we live in a world where the consumers don't know the price of their product and the producers don't know the value of their product. So we live in a blind market and we name them as free market economy. Such a model, such a development agenda for sustainability is impossible. Therefore, we need to look back the history to locate community ownership over the resources for a sustainable future. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Bhabani, for these very compelling remarks, which I think are a good basis for thinking about frameworks of public-private partnerships in the future that take the common good into consideration, that look at the history of these constructs and are not only focused on market-based approaches. So thank you very much. Yes. Any questions? We have 1 minute for some brief questions to Bhabani. Without starting, yes, please. Yes, sir, behind the United States.
He's from Sudan.
Yes, yeah. Yes. Oh,
you.
Thank you very much. I mean, I had been promoting this place, from Sudan to UK, now to United States. I think that's promotion in my career, which is good. I haven't got there yet, but perhaps one day. Anyway, I have a question, but I'm not sure about the 1 minute answer to it, because you have actually, stated very good history for, the PPP and how it developed from history. Obviously, we have deviated from that at a certain point in time. When, why, and how we deviated so that we can actually bring it back to where it was? I hope it can be a short answer.
The short answer is from 1980s onwards, with the growth of neoliberalism as only model of development, as only model of economic philosophy, that led to the growth of such a desperate situation. We can discuss after the conference more in detail. Thank you.
Thank you. Very elaborate history on PPP. Can I ask about the role of corporate social responsibility? We know that the corporate social responsibility is well embedded in developed countries. Do you have any ideas on how it is or how it can be embedded in developing countries?
Thank you. It's a very difficult question, but a very brief answer. Corporate social responsibility is a marketing strategy of the corporations to exploit natural resources and expect that the local communities, indigenous communities, will not resist the exploitation of natural resources. I'll give you a classic example of Vedant Corporation, which is registered in London. It exploits bauxite mines. It does bauxite mining in the eastern India, in South India, dismantling the natural habitat and natural resources of indigenous communities. So my approach is, make them, if you buy a share of Vedant, you are a shareholder. Why the indigenous communities are not shareholders of the resources on which they sit? So I don't need corporate social responsibility from Vedant to set up health centers. I want all the resources. There should be partnership between Vedant and the indigenous communities. Let the profit be shared between the indigenous communities and the corporations. That would be a better alternative than investing a tiny bit of money out of the profit of the corporations on corporate social responsibility. That would be my response. Thank you.
So please remember, if we all help and do a little bit, it will make a big difference.